Hello and welcome. This video is going to talk about how to relocate, some of the things that you should do and when, starting at entrance on duty, and some things that you should definitely avoid, as well as some considerations that can help keep you out of some financial distress later on. I know that moving and relocating, especially if you have a family or a lot of possessions, pets, or you're going a long distance, can be really stressful. So this video is to kind of put your mind at ease and help you to gain a little bit more certainty about what that process looks like. So the first thing is to start gathering your intelligence a little bit early. So as soon as you enter on duty, you will be there at your sector and you will have an opportunity to check out the bulletin board. Usually there's one by the break room, and see what is around, see if there are any listings or apartment complexes. You'll be able to use word of mouth and talk to mission support and the other people that will be coming in and talking to you. Potentially you could ask them, are there specific places that you recommend that we live? Are there specific areas you recommend that we avoid? And just gather some of that intelligence early, especially if they let you visit your station, which they don't do a whole lot, especially on the southern border. But if they do let you do that, be sure you take advantage, look at the break room bulletin boards, talk to agents if you're able to. And if you're not able to do it physically right then and there, do it at the sector. Make sure you're getting in the Facebook group and some of the different places online, and just kind of ask people that are at your station where the better places are to live, or especially places to avoid, because some places might be really inexpensive, right near the river, and you might think as a naive trainee going down there, oh wow, I'll just stay here, but there's a reason that it's probably low cost like that. So start thinking about your housing early, as soon as you enter on duty. The next thing to consider is whether you should house hunt or rent sight unseen. And the thing that kind of dictates this is where you're going to be living and how far away from Artesia it is. So if it's within a reasonable driving distance, let's say maybe in El Paso, sure, go ahead and take a weekend, a couple of weekends, visit some of the places that you're considering. But if it's someplace farther away, maybe over in California, maybe some of the places further away in Texas where you're not able to easily drive there in a weekend, you might want to consider renting them sight unseen. A lot of trainees will do this. And if you have friends, if you have family, if you have a spouse, if you can harvest some of those networking relationships that you have made, you can use some of those recommendations. If you're able to get maybe a shorter lease or something like that to kind of give you a little bit more confidence that you can get out. If it's someplace that is undesirable, you can see if they have something like that. Most of the time, the mission support staff or the HR people at your sector or station will be able to kind of steer you. Like, most trainees live at this apartment complex or this other apartment complex, especially in the smaller areas, places like Del Rio or Eagle Pass. There's not a ton of choice, and so the employees will be able to kind of give you an idea of where a lot of agents already live. So I would recommend considering those or putting those top on your list, especially for the first year. And that brings me to one of the big mistakes that trainees make is making big purchases that first year. This is not a good time to buy a house. It is not a good time to take on another new vehicle purchase or anything like that, because you're on probation for your first year and your job is not set in stone. And you don't know if you are going to stay there. You don't know if you're going to get some horrific injury. You don't know if you're going to get fired for backing into somebody's vehicle. You also don't know for sure if you have a family, like what schools your kids are going to go to and what neighborhood you really want to live in. So one of my top recommendations for your first year is to consider renting. Get to know the area, get to know where people are living. By that time, you will really know the area because you will have patrolled it a lot, and you'll know where the traffic patterns are. And that will give you more comfort and more certainty where you choose to live. So please consider renting that first year, and you can thank me later. It will also help you understand, the housing market and, what you might want to do as far as that goes, what part of town, inside town, outside town, etc. And that renting just gives you that extra flexibility to be able to do that. Next, let's talk about how the relocation process actually works. So you're at the academy. At what point do you get to start all this process? When do you have to report for duty? How are you going to find that out? The way that works is there's going to be a class that you will have near the end of the academy where the instructors will walk you through a relocation memo. And basically you are going to be requesting administrative leave so that you can relocate yourself from wherever your prior residence is to your new duty location. And the instructors have done this in many classes. So they will help tell you exactly how to figure out your mileage, how to do your household size, how to write down the distance that you're moving, and how to integrate all those different pieces into your memo so that you can rationalize the amount of time that you are requesting. Let's use a couple of examples. So if you are maybe a single guy in El Paso and you are not moving, you're just staying at the same location because you live in El Paso and you're going to go to the station there, you're not going to get a lot of time to relocate because you're not really doing anything. So you can graduate and then expect to show up to duty the following Monday morning. It's very common. Or maybe you need a day or two for something, but you're not going to be getting an extended period of time. You have to have a good reason for that. They're not just giving you this leave just to give it to you. If you happen to live far away, maybe you're on the northern border, maybe you're driving across the country, if you have a large family or a lot of household possessions, if there's a lot of things to move and things to coordinate, driving, shipping vehicles, all of those types of things, you're going to be able to request more time because you're going to need more time. You're going to need additional days to make that journey. You may even need to spend a couple of nights in a hotel as you travel with all of your things down, depending on the extent of your possessions and how you're planning on moving. So you will have those kinds of things figured out by the time you send off this memo. And that's the thing, it's just a request. There's no guarantee that you're going to get the amount of time that you request. So I've seen as little as just a couple of days, like that weekend maybe, and showing up for duty for somebody that doesn't really have to move, to as long as like 2 weeks for somebody that's going maybe from New York to California and they've got lots of stuff going on. Keep that in mind, that you have the flexibility to request a different amount of time. They may or may not give it to you. The good thing about that time is admin leave is paid. So while Border Patrol is not necessarily paying for your move as far as rental truck or whatever, they are compensating you for your time that you are relocating, that you're going to be away. So you could do something like have a weekend, 5 days of admin leave time, a weekend, and then maybe 5 more days. And then you still have another weekend. So there's a potential for taking a long time, which if you need to pack everything up and you need to move yourself, it can take that amount of time. So it's really common to take like 10 days of admin leave if you have a lot of stuff, a family, and a long ways to go. So the memo is really what kicks that off. And once they respond to your memo, they will basically say, we granted you this many days or whatever. They may not grant your full days. They may cut a day or two off. That's common also. And they will give you your report date. They'll say, report here at this day and time. And that's how you will know what you're going to be doing after graduation. So while you're at the academy's kind of been responsible for you. And with this memo, you're transitioning off to your station, basically like gaining you back. So that is when you're going to be able to really finalize your moving plans. You'll be able to set dates and all of that kind of thing as far as getting your things moved and knowing exactly when you're going to report. So does Border Patrol pay for the move? Not exactly. They're not going to pay for moving expenses. They're not going to reimburse you for relocation costs. But they do help by paying you for the admin leave while you relocate. So that's pretty much the only thing. I will say that at the Border Patrol Academy, there is a very little known of stipend that trainees do find themselves getting at the end of the academy. And there is a small monthly stipend for like starch and laundry soap and things like that that you have to pay for out of pocket. Incidentals. You get a small stipend for incidentals in a lump sum at the end of the academy. It's not a lot, but it can help a little bit with fuel or whatever. They don't tell you this right off the bat, and they also don't give it to you every month. They want to make sure that you graduate first before they even give it to you. So there is a tiny little bit. If you want more details on the nitty-gritty about EOD, pay, things like that, I do have an EOD prep course that has tons of information if you're getting ready to EOD, including information about that stipend. I'll link it in the description if you want to check that out. I want to talk about the hiring bonus because this is a mistake that I see trainees make, and it just guts me every time I see it. And that is, the 10K hiring bonus now comes with a service agreement, which means they will give you the 10K after the Border Patrol Academy. But if you don't fulfill that service agreement, you have to pay it back. And so the timing of that hiring bonus is such that you cannot really relocate with it. Because as soon as you graduate the academy, you're doing your admin leave before you report. Most trainees are not receiving their hiring bonus until a paycheck or two into their duty at their duty station. So you're not getting it right when you leave the academy. So just be cautious there. What I see trainees do is they think, I'm going to get that bonus. I'll just put the relocation on my credit card. I'll put all the moving expenses, all the fuel, all the trucks, all first month's, last month's rent, like all these, big expenses on the credit card. And then when I get the hiring bonus, I'll pay it off. And I would just caution you about using that bonus until after you have completed your service agreement, just because so many things can happen. It's just very unpredictable. Border Patrol is an unpredictable job. You're going to be in the field training unit. You're going to be changing shifts a lot. There's just a lot of moving parts. And I think it's smarter to hang on to that until you complete the service agreement. I highly recommend not spending that money. Do not put a down payment on a house at that time. Vehicle, any of that kind of stuff. Those are not wise choices because you're on probation and it is easy to get fired as a Border Patrol trainee. I'm telling you, even if they just don't really like you, they can find things to add up, little pieces of paperwork to get rid of you or to make your life so difficult. You're like, oh, I'm going to quit. People quit Border Patrol in their first year all the time. That's why they have the service agreement on here. So just understand that, especially if you are not from the border. If you don't understand the border culture, if you maybe haven't been around it, it's different. Okay, as somebody coming from the Midwest, it's different on the border. And so you're just going to have a little bit of culture shock with that. So I just recommend don't spend that hiring bonus right away. So you're planning on moving, but you're planning all of this move while you're at the academy. So if you do have a spouse, if you do have family, that's great. And maybe they can help you with some of those things, but you're going to have to coordinate. Pets, household goods, vehicles. Are you going to fly? Are you going to drive? Are you going to do hotels while you travel? Storage and shipping. And it's stressful. So I recommend don't plan your relocation down to the wire where cruising into your new pad on Sunday night, getting the keys and having your first duty day on Monday. Something is bound to go wrong. Please don't do that. Give yourself a little buffer. Give yourself a couple of days to kind of settle in, unpack, just figure all of those things out. And one of my top tips here is you need to protect your equipment because a lot of times you have all this new stuff. The academy has basically held you accountable because they've had your firearm locked up. You've not been taking it to your room or anything. Now you're responsible for that. You're responsible for the badge. You're responsible for the gun. You're responsible for the body armor. You're responsible for the radio. You're responsible, for all of these different things. So, okay, I guess you won't actually have your radio probably until you get to your station, but you'll have all of these things that have serial numbers. You're going to be responsible for them. Moving, there's maybe people helping you move, whatever. And just be sure that you take really good care of that. You know where it is. You keep that stuff accountable. You keep your stuff locked up. And don't lose any of it. Don't put anything out in the open in your vehicle. Things get stolen out of vehicles all the time. It's a frequent occurrence on the border. People love to steal stuff from Border Patrol agents. Now that you are going to be a Border Patrol agent, not everybody likes the police. And it's just a way that our culture is right now. Not everybody is, pro law enforcement. So you just have to understand that people are going to be more willing to take advantage of you because you of where you work and what you do. Not everybody agrees with immigration and all the things the way they are. So you just have to have extra vigilance about yourself. And that starts with your move because now your firearm is yours. You're going to walk out of the academy with it. You're going to walk out with your equipment, walk out with your gear. And you haven't really had practice managing all that stuff. And now you're traveling and you're trying to do all these things with your equipment as well as your household goods and all those things. So just give yourself some time, really think through how you're going to keep those things secure, and give yourself the extra time when you get to your new location to kind of settle in, get everything set up, get yourself some groceries so you have some lunch to take, those kind of things. And make sure when you're moving that you know where your uniforms are. Not just your uniforms, but every little piece. Your boot socks, your white V-neck. Well, this isn't a V-neck, but all the things that you need to have. Don't let a helpful person, you schlep them on the truck wherever and you're like, where are my uniform, shirts? Where's my stuff? You have to keep really good track of all of those different pieces so that way when you land at your new location, you are ready for duty. You're ready to report. There's a whole new chapter opening up in front of you. I can still remember my very first day reporting, And you want to make a good impression. You want to be early. You want to look really nice. You don't want to look like you just barely arrived at your location. So give yourself that time, give yourself some grace, and just realize that this is a massive adventure that you are undertaking. And really, the academy is the easy part. Going to the field training unit, starting your reputation really at your station, connecting with peers and coworkers, and learning your job, learning your area, all of the things that you have to do as a trainee there at the station. It's a whole other world. You really just want to do everything you can in advance to ensure that that is a really smooth transition and you get off on the right foot. So to summarize, budget more than you think you're going to need for this relocation in terms of time and money. Don't count on the hiring bonus. Start researching your housing early. Start at EOD if at all possible and get recommendations from people that are actually in the area. Consider renting before buying if at all possible. Try not to take on any big payments while you're on probation or rush any major financial or even just life decisions. It's pretty common with trainees. I met the love of my life at the academy, or I met the love of my life like on week 2 of field training unit. Go slow with those things and be patient. You're only going to be able to see a couple of steps ahead. Keep in mind that everybody has gone through this and they're just kind of watching. How do you respond? How do you tackle this challenge? Are you a fly by the seat of your pants kind of person, or do you arrive squared away? You have everything in order, your ducks are in a row, etc. You want to be very careful with your gear. Somebody's going to lose a piece of gear at some point. It's going to happen. And you don't want to be that person. You want to make sure that you really set yourself up for success in advance. And you can do that starting with how you relocate.